Everyone has heard of Bitcoin, especially Gary Gensler. El Salvador made it their official currency. But is it still top dog? Today's show is a battle between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. So stick around. You're watching Crypto vs. Crypto. I'm Laura Kantor. This is a new original series from ETF Guide TV, and we're glad you're with us. Punch the subscribe button, and if there's a certain cryptocurrency contest that you'd like to see, send us your matchup requests in the comments section below or on our Twitter feed at ETF Guide. Be sure to include your exact crypto tickers. Although massively popular, Bitcoin does have its flaws. It has a small number of transactions per second and high fees. Bitcoin Cash was built on the same blockchain as Bitcoin in 2017 in order to address these issues. But which crypto is the better choice? Today's cryptocurrency showdown is between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. And judging today's contest, we've got Tom Lombardi, Professor of Digital Asset Finance at Pepperdine University, and Mark Kilaghbian, co-founder at UBDI.com. Judges, welcome to the show. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
The four battle categories for today's crypto showdown: community, utility, performance, and a mystery category. Our judges will pick their favorite cryptocurrency in each category, and we'll tally up the results to declare an overall winner. Our judges can also nominate wildcards if they feel there's better options elsewhere. Keep in mind, none of the outcomes of crypto battle are ever predetermined or known in advance by myself or any of our judges. Well, my scorecard is ready. Let's start with the first category, community. Mark, you're up.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I think Bitcoin is going to win this one hands down. Bitcoin at this point is essentially a religion. I've been in Bitcoin since 2013. I never sell it if I have any choice, unless I'm absolutely squeezed. I'm not spending it on anything fancy, and I think people in my generation have been hoarding Bitcoin like almost nothing I've ever seen. It's not about fancy watches anymore. It's how much BTC do you have. You can't say that about Bitcoin Cash. You can't say that about most other cryptos. I think Bitcoin has created a super robust community of true believers who understand the technology, believe in it, and frankly just want to use it and hold it. Bitcoin Cash, in my opinion, was mostly a pump and dump. The initial backers and the people who supported it, I think at this point are mostly gone. I think if you had been back in 2018, you might find some split in the community as to which of these forks was going to truly become the future of Bitcoin. And you had, different people on both sides, people like Roger Ver, Craig Wright, who ultimately created BSV, which is even more trash than Bitcoin Cash, trying to essentially split the community. And so I think the community was strong enough to coalesce around Bitcoin. The community has been strong enough to get through many challenges like Mt. Gox in the early days, and even the exchanges when it came to Bitcoin Cash actually pushed them out because they knew the community of Bitcoin did not want them to be a part of it.
Very strong point, Mark. Thank you so much. Tom, your turn.
We were talking about religion. What about Bitcoin Jesus, Roger Ver? I mean, pay homage to the master, right? We found ourselves in these block size wars, and the Bitcoin network was so steadfast in this immutable code that the resurrector had to emerge, but he largely failed, and Bitcoin has prevailed by almost every measure. The Bitcoin non-cash community, because cash is trash on so many different levels, especially this conversation. The Bitcoin community is one of the largest, passionate, and mostly educated group of people I've ever met. You have to understand a number of philosophies around banking and psychology and technology and game theory and Bitcoin provides that monetary layer that is void in today's economy. The Bitcoin Cash community is, it really emerged, as Mark says. This is probably the most successful airdrop in history in 2017, when Bitcoin holders just wanted to get their BCH, Bitcoin trash, and sell it. And that's exactly what I did. I'm sure Mark did. But all these exchanges support it because people wanted their coins. And it really never aspired. It never really resulted in what the aspiration was. And if you look at every single metric, we can get into performance, but it's owned by whales. It's Roger Ver himself has had some issues, financial issues, owing CoinFlex like $47 million and not paying it back. I mean, the community, if they're following Roger Ver, then they have a false idol, and Bitcoin BTC is where it's at.
Great, thank you so much, Tom. And Tom, once again, you're up. Utility is next. How do you see it?
So utility, I will say, maybe Bitcoin trash is cash. Because it is cash. It is cash in PayPal. PayPal only accepts a few, cryptocurrencies: Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin. Bitcoin Cash is a money coin, right? And it's a decentralized network. So the outside world looks at it and says, well, no one controls it. It's not a security like most of the other ones are. Even the Canadian regulators have seen, have licensed and regulated crypto exchanges, but they largely look at these money coins as acceptable. But the utility ends there. I know that there's vendors around the world that accept Bitcoin Cash, maybe because it's cheap, but it doesn't fulfill the network effect that's required by money, which is the largest required network effect in the world. So for me to have utility to spend Bitcoin Cash anywhere is largely diminished, and anyone who's considering operating a business accepting it should look otherwise.
And so, Mark?
Bitcoin really is, a store of value. I think that's where its utility is derived from. I think there are always going to be new offerings that are faster. And we're seeing that, to this day, there's always a faster network, but you're trading security at some level every time you do that. So the real bread and butter of the Bitcoin network is proof of work. It's the massive amount of miners that are required to successfully operate the network. And that's one reason Bitcoin Cash actually thrived at the outset, was because Bitmain, the major producer of Bitcoin mining hardware, wanted the SegWit implementation not to be made because it made their machines more expensive. And they also realized that they could mine an insane amount of Bitcoin Cash using their machines purportedly. As opposed to using them on Bitcoin, they can control a much larger portion of the network. So there's just significantly less competition, so it's more profitable. But that means it's less secure. Someone who's rich enough could, in theory, get enough hardware to take over the network and change the rules. So I think Bitcoin's real value is in proof of work. I don't think enough people appreciate that necessarily, and just how decentralized that platform is. But Bitcoin Cash is faster. But I will say, since the implementation of Lightning on Bitcoin, there really is no utility in BCH. Lightning is an amazing system. It works well. It's fast. I'm integrating it in some products we're building right now. And I don't think there's much of a downside at this point.
So next up, let's go to performance. Mark?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the charts, you can see BCH's sort of pump in 2017, 2018, right as everyone got airdropped. I do miss the airdrops. It was great when you could just hold your BTC and get something free in your wallet. That was nice back in the day. It doesn't happen so often anymore. But it doesn't happen for good reason, because everyone just dumps it, and that's exactly what happened to BCH. And since then, it's basically loosely tracked some of the macro environment of the market, as most of the other tokens do. But BTC is always going to outperform, and on a 10-year horizon, I would not want to touch Bitcoin Cash or really much else besides Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin has proved that it is the most reliable long-term investment. And most altcoins never reach a new all-time high after they've reached one during one of these macro cycles.
Thank you so much. Next up is Tom.
You talk about performance. Let's two parts. Performance of the asset. Bitcoin is, if you look from the peak of 2017, it's positive. It's up slightly, right, from 16 to call it 20K. You look at the performance of Bitcoin Cash. It's down 97%. So I don't know. That's one data point. But it's, if we look at the performance of the performance of the blockchain, because they're basically, it's a carbon copy of Bitcoin, except it has larger block sizes. So why is that required? Bitcoin has a 1 megabyte block size, which gets most of the time filled. Bitcoin Cash, recent block size, it can take 32 megabytes. Wow, big improvement. But it only fills 194 kilobytes. That's like 0.5% of the capacity. So this whole block size war thing is rubbish because Bitcoin Cash never needed the increased block size. They needed smaller, so it makes no sense. And then lastly, if we look at the performance from a security standpoint, which Mark referenced, we look at the hash rate, and that's call it a proxy for the security protection. The hash rate of Bitcoin is about 200 exahash per second. Bitcoin Cash is single one, right? So again, back to 0.5%. This is like, I can't believe we're comparing Bitcoin to Bitcoin Cash. This is like comparing the intelligence of like Elon Musk to a golden retriever. So Bitcoin wins, Cash is trash.
Okay, let me say that about Elon Musk. I mean, do you think it's a smart move what he's doing with Twitter, though? Sorry to digress, but I mean, he's in some...
I'm a crypto guy. I don't follow stonks.
Oh, okay. Excuse me. So sorry. Okay, well, thanks for your point of view. Fantastic as always. And so that takes us to the mystery category. This is where our judges get to choose a factor or thing they believe is crucial to the battle between these cryptos. Our judges can opt for a split decision, take a pass, or protest. It's completely up to them. Let's start with Mark. What is your mystery category and who wins it?
So my mystery category is backers/founders. I think this is really important. I think this makes Bitcoin more unique than basically anything out there, and that's the fact that it has an anonymous founder. We still don't know who created it. He's still never touched any of the tokens that he can move as sort of a proof point that he is not going to, ruin the network at any point. He's got, he could make billions, tomorrow, and he's unwilling to do that because he believes, more in the product and what he's built than he needs the money, which I think is very respectable. I don't think there's any other company in history, nothing has gotten to this size without us knowing who built it, without someone needing to take credit. And I think that says a lot about his confidence in his own creation. And also, you don't have someone like Elon Musk who is infallible and who may make a mistake that ruins, the belief system that they built underneath the product. So I think it gives it a lot of strength because there's no single point of failure, no single person. With things like Bitcoin Cash and altcoins in particular, you have so much VC money going in, the people who were late to Bitcoin, who didn't get in early enough, that are co-opting all of these things because they assume they can get in early enough to pump and dump it on someone, or at least push it towards whatever they think it should be. And as a founder who's had to deal with a lot of this, those people are never the ones you want, controlling the levers on these things. And so I think that is actually Bitcoin's greatest strength, is having no one who can co-opt it in that fashion.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Tom, I'm dying to hear your opinion.
My view is on the mystery. It's not total addressable market of payments, because even though that was sort of the that was the idea of the inception of Bitcoin as a peer-to-peer payment system, it's largely becoming a store of value assets. And with everything happening in the world, money printing, global wars, uncertainty around, Eurozones, and, it may not be a hedge against currencies and prices, but it's a hedge against chaos. And so when I look at something like Bitcoin Cash, yeah, sure, it's a carbon copy of Bitcoin. And, Laura, you can make Laura coin and fork Bitcoin and do the same thing. But that doesn't mean anyone's going to use it or buy it. So we take out the payment system and we look at the store of value thesis. People investing in Bitcoin Cash may be either delusional or they are treasure hunters, right? They're treasure hunters. They're looking for the next thing that they can catch, right? Because Bitcoin's already played out and so is Ethereum. So I need to find the next best thing. It's a fool's errand because Bitcoin Cash is uninvestable. It might be investable by some flippers on Coinbase, but when it comes to the $100 trillion of money allocated in this world by institutions and governments and pension funds, nobody's looking at Bitcoin Cash. They are looking at Bitcoin. And so my sort of mystery pick is institutional investment. We've been talking about this for years, but it really has been a huge catalyst for the adoption of Bitcoin, the market value of Bitcoin, and the amount of wallets and institutions getting involved. So big money's rolling into BTC, and treasure hunters are going to find garbage when they roll into BCH.
Mark, I just wanted to add something. When you were talking about backers and founders and how vital that is, the name just kept popping in my head like a flashlight was Do Kwon. So many red flags, red lights, red everything. So.
Well, and a great line to that is I've heard, with Bitcoin, there's no throat to choke. Not only is there no spokesman to sell it, but there's no throat to choke to turn it off. There's no developer to subpoena, right? There's nothing that any of these governments can go to and shut down. It is an organism that will thrive beyond anyone's control. And that's why I love it.
So before we declare a final winner, we'll give our judges one last chance to recap their overall winner. Gee, I wonder who the winner is going to be. Me trying to be sarcastic, but not working. Okay, so Tom, give us your winner.
Yeah, I mean, it's Bitcoin. Bitcoin wins. In my mind, Bitcoin wins in the comparison of any asset class anywhere in the world. It's the first self-sovereign money and asset that has a known, it's the only, someone said this before, it's the only scarce thing that in the world that can have verifiable supply. It's the only thing in the world that can have verifiable supply. And that's important. That's important to investors. That's important to individuals. And when we learn to use things like Lightning for payments, when we learn to incorporate different financial products, which is already thriving like crazy, because that's where I focus my time, we're seeing this evolution, and we're seeing people open their eyes, and we see regulators paying attention. I mean, we're at the precipice of a huge Cambrian explosion where Bitcoin will be the new digital gold, and it will have implications that we really can't even fathom today.
Wonderful, thank you. And Mark?
Yeah, Bitcoin all the way. I think it really comes down to proof of work and having a limited supply. I think those are two very important pieces of the puzzle. I think it's honestly surprising that more altcoins and competitors have not taken to those two very strong, those two main strengths of Bitcoin. And I think that says a lot about, one, the understanding of the founders of these companies as to what's important, but also, their understanding that there's a lot more grift and a lot more they can milk out of people if they don't have those two fundamental values that makes Bitcoin so special. And I think, we've seen this even with people coming out of Ukraine. The ones that made it with anything through the borders had a ledger with their Bitcoin on it, or they just memorized their seed phrase. Those were the only people getting money out of the country. And I think we're living in a world where at some level you want to be prepared for things like that, and you want to have uncensorable money, which I think is, it's incredibly important, and it gives a lot of power to the people. So I think that's why there's this religion built around it, and I think it's important, and we have a unique opportunity in history to do this that really we haven't had in the past.
Mark, thank you so much for that. And according to my scorecard, today's winner is, surprise, surprise, Bitcoin. See, Bitcoin won in community. Both judges chose Bitcoin for community. For utility, once again, both judges chose Bitcoin. Performance, both judges chose Bitcoin. Mystery, once again, Bitcoin. And the overall crypto winner, Bitcoin. So here's some key takeaways from today's show that I enjoyed. Key takeaway from Tom. For Bitcoin, the smartest people invest in it. So what does it say that I haven't invested in it yet? Yeah, okay. So Mark, the thing that I got from you is that Bitcoin is not about expensive watches. Bitcoin Cash is all about pump and dump. Interesting. So what do you think about today's crypto outcome? Which judge do you agree with? Who made the more convincing arguments? Post your thoughts in the comments section below. Well, that does it for this round of Crypto versus Crypto. A big thanks to our judges. Tom, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks. And I have a question. I went to UCLA. Would I be allowed to audit your class even though I'm a Bruin?
Yeah, tuition is $87,000. So small price to pay for the alpha of knowledge you'll get, Laura.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, maybe if I invest in Bitcoin, in a couple of years, maybe I can do it. So, yes. And Mark, amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been amazing.
So thanks again for the solid analysis. And to the viewers, which crypto versus crypto would you like to see in our next episode? By the way, we can do triple and quadruple headers, so make it good. Post your thoughts in our YouTube comments section or hit us on Twitter at ETF Guide. It's our handle. Thanks for watching. I'm Laura Kantor. Adios. We'll see you next time.